We are starting with ecosystem. The name of the chapter is ecosystem. But before I go ahead with ecosystem, some of you all had, asked me about, some doubts of evolution. So one of the doubts that was, being asked was, what is gene frequency, beta? So I'll just, give a quick idea of that, and then I'll go ahead with ecosystem. Okay. So, what is gene frequency? So, you know that gene has got alleles, correct? Genes have got alleles, right? Now, in a population, not in an individual, is going to be in a population, right? So, in a population, the total number of dominant alleles, recessive alleles, and heterozygous alleles, okay, we'll be having these three types of individuals, right? We'll be having homozygous dominant individuals, homozygous recessive individuals, and heterozygous individuals, correct? So when I say homozygous dominant, what it would be? Capital T, as in your Mendel's principle when we say, correct? Correct? Small t, according to your Mendel, correct? And capital T, small t also, which is also going to be according to your Mendel. Agreed? So in a population, see, in a population of say 1,000 plants or 1,000 pea plants, as we say, how many would be tall and how many would be dwarf in the F2 generation? What would be your answer? How many are phenotypically tall and phenotypically dwarf? What is your answer for that? Can you all tell me? What's the ratio? Mendelian ratio? Hmm. Hmm. Correct. 3 is to 1, right? Now, in this 3 is to 1 ratio, can you tell me what is the frequency of dominant alleles in that particular population and recessive alleles in that population? Can you tell me? चलो बताओ, उस population में कितने dominant alleles रहेंगे और कितने recessive alleles रहेंगे? You're saying the 1 is to 2 is to 1 ratio is correct, beta. But when you say 1 is to 2 is to 1, in that, what is that 1 TT? Correct? Then capital T small t में से capital T, दूसरे capital T small t में से capital T, बराबर है? तो टोटल कितने डोमिनेंट एलील्स प्रेजेंट है इस पॉपुलेशन में? करेक्ट, 2 होमोजाइगस एंड 2 हेट्रोजाइगस के टीटी, तो 4 कैपिटल टी प्रेजेंट है और कितने स्मॉल टी प्रेजेंट है बेटा उस पॉपुलेशन में? हाँ, करेक्ट, गॉट इट. सो 4 डोमिनेंट एलील्स प्रेजेंट है, 4 रेसेसिव एलील्स प्रेजेंट है. सो व्हाट इज द frequency, what is the gene frequency of dominant and recessive allele in this population? 1 is to 1. You understood? So the phenotypic ratio is 3 is to 1, but what is the gene frequency of dominant alleles? 4. What is the frequency of recessive alleles? 4. So both are almost in equal proportion. Got this? So gene frequency is actually counting the alleles ka frequency in a population. Did you understand this? Correct? Now let us assume that there is some mutation. There is some mutation that took place. There is some mutation that took place in dominant alleles of all these. हाँ, अगर कुछ म्यूटेशन हुआ है ये डोमिनेंट एलील में, ये एक डोमिनेंट एलील, एवरी ओनली वन डोमिनेंट एलील्स में, तो नाउ व्हाट वुड बी द जीन फ्रीक्वेंसी? कैन यू टेल मी? Instead of capital T, it would be capital T, small t. Instead of heterozygous condition, that is capital T, small t, and now it has become small t, small t. So now what would be the gene frequency of dominant alleles and recessive alleles in this population? Can you all tell me? Dominant alleles कितने रहेंगे और recessive कितने रहेंगे बच्चा? समझ में आ रही है मेरी बात की नहीं? हाँ, So see, I'll put it on the checkerboard and I'll show you. I'll show you in that way. So it'll be easy for you all. Wait, I'll do that for you. So it's actually very simple, but I'll put it for you. Okay. So suppose किधर गए रे हम लोग, ये ना मुझे ढूंढने में ही बहुत टाइम लगता है. ये देखो, ये अपना मैं चेकर बोर्ड बना रही हूँ नॉर्मल वाला, और एक बना रही हूँ जिधर मैं दिखा रही हूँ कि इट इज अंडरगोइंग व्हाट म्यूटेशन, है ना. तो म्यूटेटेड वाले को मैं रेड बनाती हूँ. चलिए, करेक्ट. नाउ योर yeah. So here if I'm going to write down capital T, capital T, capital T, sorry, capital T, small t. After the अरे ये क्या है? To make it different only. I'm directly writing the answers, please, I'm directly writing the answers. I'm not making a cross and I'm not telling you like that way, नहीं तो वो और टाइम हो जाएगा. ये मैं आपको फाइनल आंसर दिखा रही हूँ, करेक्ट. एंड ये आपका आंसर है फॉर अ नॉर्मल क्रॉस. इसमें आपने मुझे क्या बताया? कैपिटल T 1 2 3 4, राइट. सो वी हैव गॉट 4 dominant is to what beta? 4 recessive. 4 dominant is to 4 recessive. Agreed. Now I'm saying if it undergoes mutation, एक कैपिटल T, हर एक कैपिटल T में अगर म्यूटेशन होता है तो आपका आंसर क्या हो जाएगा? What would be your answer now? It would be capital T small t. Then हर एक कैपिटल में म्यूटेशन हुआ, so not what will be the mutated condition, my dears? So now can you tell me the frequency of this? What is the frequency of this now is what my question is. Huh? Yes. Yes, you're perfectly right now. You all are perfectly right. So अभी आपका आंसर क्या हो जाएगा बेटा? 1 dominant, correct, is to what? Correct, perfect. 7 recessive. Okay, so what has changed now? What has changed? The frequency of dominant allele has changed drastically due to mutation. Did you all understand what is gene frequency now? Right? So a change in the original composition of the alleles will be called as gene frequency. Is it okay? Okay, my dear. So this is gene frequency, also referred to as allele frequency. दोनों सेम ही है, चाहे वो gene frequency हो चाहे वो allele frequency हो. ठीक है. हाँ, दूसरा जो एक डाउट था वो था gene pool, right? The second doubt was what? Gene pool. Agreed? Okay. Now, what is gene pool? So, with the same example, मैं आपको बता सकती हूँ what is the gene pool now. See, in the original population, it was dominant and recessive together. So, that area which were having those plants were having 3 parts of dominant gene pool and 1 part of recessive gene pool. Okay, got it? या फिर it had 4 dominant genes in that pool of say 100 plants, if I say. Okay, 100 अपने को ना क्या कहते हैं, कैलकुलेशन के लिए इजी जाएगा. तो ये जीन पूल में 100 प्लांट्स के जो जीन पूल है उस एरिया के, उनमें इक्वल प्रपोर्शन ऑफ dominant alleles or recessive alleles थे, right? But due to genetic drift, due to mutation, due to whatever, okay, we can say migration. Okay, now what happened? Because of mutation, for example, the dominant allele got converted into a recessive one. So now that gene ka pool means, what do you mean by a pool? A collection. So now the collection of genes in that particular population, instead of having equal dominant and equal recessive, has changed to have only one part of dominant and seven parts of recessive. So now the pool has changed. Now the collection has changed. What do you mean by pool? A collection. Pooling together. आपने car pool ये नाम सुना है? You have heard about this car pooling. What is car pooling? शेयरिंग. उबर का, ओला का हम लोग जो शेयर लेते हैं ना बेटा, दैट इज कॉल्ड एज कार पूल. सो वन कार will be shared by four individuals, four different individuals. I have come from my, मेरे घर से मैं उस कार में बैठी, थोड़ा आगे जाके किसी और ने मेरे साथ ज्वाइन कर लिया, और आगे जाके किसी ने और मेरे साथ ज्वाइन कर लिया, है ना बेटा. तो वो क्या हो गया, अलग अलग लोग अपने अपने घर से उस कार में कलेक्ट हो गए. That is called as carpooling. In the same way, in a population, when different individuals enter that population, they add up to the collection of the genes. For example, suppose in India, suppose all Indians are living, and there are some Americans who would be added. There are some Africans who would be added. So now India will have a gene pool for what? Gene pool for Indian genes plus American genes plus African genes. So the pool has now increased. Do you understand? So pooling means collecting. A collection of different genes in a population will be called as gene pool. Okay, understood? Someone had asked me about gene pool also. So I hope these doubts are clear. And others, those who had not asked but had this doubt, is it clear to all of you? Yes? Fine. Good, good. Okay. So now I'll move ahead with the new chapter that's going to be called as ecosystem. It's a very simple chapter. It's a part of your EBS, as we say, right? But some things are new which you might have not heard of. So you would be, like you're going to learn that. So let us go ahead with that particular chapter of ecosystem. Yeah. Okay. Four chapters of ecology. Yeah. The four chapters of ecology is first one, which will be called as, biodiversity and conservation, organisms and populations, then ecosystem, then biodiversity is the third one, and fourth one is the environmental issues. So organisms and population, ecosystem, biodiversity and conservation, and environmental issues. Out of these four chapters, three chapters would be taught by me, that is ecosystem, uh, biodiversity and conservation, and environmental issues. These three chapters would be taught by me, and sir would be teaching you all organisms and population. Okay. So these are the four chapters. So that is the reason I came directly to the second chapter of ecology. The first chapter would be taught by sir. But of course, these are not very much interlinked, though they all belong to ecology. They are not that interlinked कि अगर first chapter नहीं पढ़ाया तो आपको second नहीं समझेगा, ऐसा कुछ नहीं. Okay, they are individuals on their own. So what are the things that we have to see in this particular chapter of ecology? So these are the subtopics that we have to understand. Ecosystem, the structure and function. We have to know what is productivity, decomposition, energy flow, ecological pyramids, ecological succession, nutrient cycling, and ecosystem services. So these are the 8 subtopics that we need to go ahead to understand the chapter of ecosystem. Okay. So the first one, what is it altogether? The first definition of it, of course, it's going to be a functional unit of nature where interactions of living organisms will take place within themselves and also with their surrounding environment. So, any interaction between every living individual along with everything that is living or non-living around them. So that is going to be your entire ecosystem. So whatever is there, living or non-living, how are we connected to it would be the study called as ecosystem. Okay. Now the term ecosystem was coined by Tansley, very frequently asked. This question is one of the favorite questions, especially for match the followings. So don't forget his name. It's A.G. Tansley. Okay. Then what are the different types? There are two types of ecosystems, artificial and natural. So artificial, of course, is man-made ecosystem. Example, crop field, aquarium. Have you all been to aquarium? तारापुर वाला aquarium? कभी गए हो? बड़ी बड़ी वो फिश देखे हैं वहां पर? हाँ, यस, तारापुर वाला एक्वेरियम इज वेरी फेमस इन मुंबई ना, एंड पिकनिक स्पॉट है वो। एवरी स्कूल कभी ना कभी लाइफ में आपको एक बार तो एटलीस्ट तारापुर वाला एक्वेरियम लेके जाएगी। So that is a man-made ecosystem, right? Natural ecosystems are the terrestrial ecosystems and aquatic ecosystems. Under terrestrial ecosystems, they have been further classified into what? See, forest, grassland, deserts, etc. ये सारे terrestrial, natural में आते हैं. Aquatic ecosystems are further classified as freshwater and saltwater or marine ecosystems. Freshwater ecosystems are lentic, that is ponds and lakes, and lotic, which are rivers and streams. Now, my dears, these things are not given in your books, and very frequently ये words आते हैं. What is lentic? What is lotic? Now, what is lentic? Lentic means stagnant water, and lotic means flowing water. Okay, so rivers, streams, the water flows na, that type of water will be called as lotic, and the one which is going to be, in that one place only, ponds hai, lakes hai na, those will be called as lentic. So what is lentic and what is lotic is very important for you all to understand. Okay, now saltwater ecosystems are going to be wetland, estuaries, and any marine environment like oceans hai, seas hai, everything will come under that. So in this way, two types of ecosystems, artificial and natural, under natural, terrestrial and aquatic, under aquatic, freshwater and marine. Lentic is stagnant in the sense the water won't flow. The water won't flow. Like rivers and all, na, the water is not going to flow. So we call it as, like a water body, of course, it's a water body. It's not the rainwater wala stagnant water, which we can call it as your lentic. But ponds है, lakes है, वो कैसे होते हैं? वो एक confined area में होते हैं बेटा, वो flow नहीं होते रहते, उनका पानी forcefully flow नहीं होता है, जो flow होता है वो लोटिक है, ठीक है? Okay. Yeah. Now we have to understand what is the structure of ecosystem, how to study the structure. So see, first is stratification. Vertical distribution of different species occupying different levels in an ecosystem is called as stratification. So you can see over here that this strata का मतलब होता है layer. What do you mean by strata? Layer. तो ये देखिए बेटा, जो बिल्कुल नीचे है, लोएस्ट लेयर पे जो इकोसिस्टम का लेयर पाया गया है, it is going to have herbs, right? The second layer will be of shrubs. The third layer will be of short trees. Fourth layer of dense canopy. And the fifth layer will be of top emergent trees. So top trees uppermost, shrubs उसके नीचे, herbs उसके नीचे, grasses उसके भी नीचे. So इस तरीके से है ना structure of ecosystem पढ़ते हैं लोग. Okay, so how the system will be: lowest grasses, herbs, shrubs, short trees, canopies, top trees. Okay, these are asked in your boards. Yes, these are going to be asked in your boards, my dear. So what is stratification? So stratification is the vertical distribution of different species. Now see, we have studied it as horizontal, but they are saying vertical distribution. What do you mean by vertical distribution? Height के हिसाब से, lowest उससे height, उससे height, उससे height. ओके, इसलिए वो डिस्ट्रीब्यूशन जो है वो वर्टिकल है. स्टडी करने के लिए हम लोग हॉरिजॉन्टल ले रहे, इधर कंफ्यूजन होता है. लुक एट दिस, the ones which are below 10 mm, 10 meters will be herbs. 10 to 20 will be shrubs. 20 to 30 will be short trees. 30 to 40 dense canopies and 40 to 50 tall emergent. So हम लोग स्टडी जब करते हैं ना, तो हम ऐसे देख रहे हैं ग्रासेस कितने हैं, हर्ब्स कितने हैं, बट लॉजिकली इट्स अकॉर्डिंग टू द हाइट ना. सो सपोज यू एंड यू गॉट अ ब्रदर और सिस्टर, यंगर और एल्डर. जब छोटे थे तो डोंट यू लाइक थिंक कि आप लोग ये करते थे, हम दोनों की हाइट देखो कितनी है, फिर ऐसे टोज ऊंचा करके मैं भी तुम्हारे जितने हो गई. यूज्ड टू डू दिस. शोल्डर शोल्डर को मैच करते थे, राइट. सो व्हाट डू, यू चेक द हाइट, बट एक्चुअली व्हाट आर यू चेकिंग? Shoulder length, right? Got it? So actually it's this way comparison, but what are you checking? Your height, right? I know these are typical Indian habits, my dear. Still you, yeah, you're all in that age of still doing it, yeah. So with me and my sister used to always do this. I was tall and my sister is shorter than me. So I mean she's quite shorter than me. She's like my parents. And I, in my family, I am the tallest. I mean, I was the tallest. Of course, now my husband is, of course, quite taller than me. But according to my family, like my parents and me and my sister, so among our four, na, I am the tallest. So she used to always, like, she's younger to me by almost 6 years. She used to always come and say, "Sai, तुझ्या एवढी झाली मी." See, 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 look at our shoulders. She was very short that time, but she was always, having that habit of comparing with the elder sister and coming to her height. Obviously, eventually that did not happen. She's still shorter than me, and I still, tease her. बहुत कोशिश की लेकिन नहीं आ पाई ना. So और मजा आता है ना, वो चिढ़ाने में और मजा आता है. Those who have got siblings, do you all enjoy? हाँ, I know. जिनको siblings है ना, they will always have this habit of दूसरे को परेशान करना. But I'm sorry, I'm very sorry if I'm going to hurt someone, but छोटे बहुत शरारती और बहुत नाटक वाले रहते हैं, बड़े बेचारे अच्छे रहते हैं. You would agree? जो हाँ बोल रहा है ना, इसका मतलब तुम लोग बड़े सिबलिंग्स हो. Yes, I know. My younger sister would always say उल्टा, नहीं नहीं छोटे ही अच्छे रहते हैं, बड़े बहुत बोरिंग रहते हैं. सुना है आपने ये बात? छोटों से ये बात सुनी है? I know. All younger siblings are like that only. I know. अरे नहीं नहीं हम लोग ही सही है, ये बड़े लोग तो है ना एकदम बहुत बोरिंग रहते हैं. My sister even today also she teases me. बहुत बोरिंग है तू, बहुत बोरिंग है, बहुत बोरिंग है. खुद भी बोरिंग है और दूसरों को भी बोर कराती है पढ़ा पढ़ा के. इज व्हाट शी ऑलवेज टीजेस मी. ए डू आई बोर यू? और यार कम ऑन टेल मी, मैं बोर कराती हूँ क्या तुम लोग को? नहीं, अभी मुझे अच्छा लगने के लिए तुम लोग नो नो मत बोलो. हाँ, और अगर हाँ भी है ना, तो भी कांट हेल्प इट यार, वी हैव टू लर्न दिस ना. एनीवेज, वो सिस्टर्स एंड ब्रदर्स के बीच में ये चलता ही रहता है. ओके, सो दैट्स व्हाट इज like mentality, as we say. So the same mentality is going to come over here also for height checking. Grasses, shrubs, herbs, grasses, herbs, shrubs, short trees, dense canopies, tall trees, right? So this is how the ecosystem ka structure has been defined by scientists. Is it okay? So understood what is stratification? Okay, my dears. Good, good. Okay, let us go with the next one. So the next one is zonation. Now, what happens in zonation? See, this is spatial. Spatial means having space. Okay, spatial pattern which occurs horizontally along the ground. Density and distribution of species vary along the horizontal gradient. Now, if you see in this diagram, now they are showing vertical bars. What are they showing? Vertical bars, but we have to study what? Horizontally. Now, what do you mean by this? Just understand. ठीक है, इसको अभी समझना. What is zonation? Suppose we go for a picnic to a seashore. I know it's not possible in the prevailing times, but imagine करने में क्या जाता है ना? हम लोग कहीं सी शोर बीच पे गए हैं पिकनिक के लिए, आपकी पूरी बैच और हम सारे टीचर्स, है ना, और हमारे कोऑर्डिनेटर्स भी सबको लेके गए, हमारा पूरा मास्टर क्लास पिकनिक के लिए चला गया किसी बीच पे। कितना मजा आएगा ना, ये सोचकर भी बहुत दिल खुश हो रहा है कि नहीं, सच में बोलो, नहीं लग रहा है क्या यार, वाओ यार, सीरियसली ये दिन हमारी लाइफ में कब आ जाए, राइट? आएगा आएगा, जल्दी आएगा। हाँ, आई नो जाना चाहिए रे, इवन आई फील लाइक दैट वे। थोड़ा तो मतलब एक्टिंग, सी I तो like you all see me so like very often, like in a week at least twice you see me. I have not seen you all. I'm really trying to see all of you all, because now what has happened, because of your interactions for so many months and almost a year or so now, we have got very close to each other, in a very, like that relationship has been built up between we all and you all, right? But we haven't seen you only, and I really feel so bad about it कि इतने अच्छे दोस्त हैं और हम लोग एक दूसरे को देख नहीं पाए यार आमने सामने। तो एनीवेज जल्दी वो दिन आना चाहिए, होपफुली, right? So imagine that we have gone together for a picnic at a seashore. Okay, now now when we enter the water, when we enter the water, we might come across small different aquatic animals when we are enjoying in that water, है ना? कुछ छोटी मछलियां आ जाएंगी, कुछ और कुछ छोटे छोटे मतलब डायटम्स, डायनोफ्लैगेलेट्स, ये सब आ जाएंगे, करेक्ट? बट when we come out of that water onto the shore, है ना? तो शोर पे जब हम आते हैं, when we are in the sand, that time will the same fish which was in the water would be present in the sand? Is it possible for the fish to leave the water and come on the sand? मर जाएगा बेचारा, है ना? करेक्ट? तो क्या हो गया, that particular zone is the same, right? That particular zone is the same. What is that zone? Sea shore, sea beach. But a distance, एक space के बाद, एक distance के बाद, एक area के बाद, organisms का composition पानी में अलग है और सैंड में अलग है। सो हम कैसे देख रहे हैं बेटा, हम लोग ने कैसे किया, हम लोग ने एक वर्टिकल लाइन बनाई कि ये वाटर एरिया, ये लैंड एरिया। बट प्रैक्टिकली देखा जाए तो क्या हो गया, दे आर ऑन द सेम हॉरिजॉन्टल बेसिस ना, right? So when we make zones, water zone, sand zone, desert as a zone, tropical forest as a zone, temperate forest as a zone, grasslands as a zone. Okay, so what are they? They are all terrestrial only. ट्रॉपिकल फॉरेस्ट हो, टेम्परेट फॉरेस्ट हो, सवानाज हो, ग्रासलैंड्स हो, पेरियार्स हो, कुछ भी हो, what are they all are terrestrial, but their vegetation changes na. Tropical rainforest, what all things would be present in that zone? From herbs, shrubs, grasses, canopies, tall plant, short plant, everything will be there, right? What about the deserts beta? What about the deserts? Deserts में क्या हो जाएगा? Limited vegetation, only opentias, cacti, mulebankia, all those plants would be there. You won't get tropical rainforest wale, flora and fauna in that particular zone, right? So that is zonation. So one is stratification, one is zonation. Stratification is vertical distribution, but horizontal study. Zonation is horizontal distribution but vertical study. Is it okay? Those who live on both, yeah, they are going to be called as ecotones. What are they called as? Ecotones. What do you mean by ecotones? Which are going to be present in both the zones. Okay, उनको इकोटोन कहा जाता है। समझ में आ रही है बात? जैसे कि ग्रासलैंड है ना बेटा, ग्रासलैंड्स तो सब जगह पर मिलेंगे आपको। ऑलमोस्ट यू गो टू टेम्परेट फॉरेस्ट, यू गो टू ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट, यू गो टू सवानास, you go to anywhere, you will be finding these grasses. So even they are ecotones found everywhere. Is it okay? So structure समझ में आ गया? What is the structure of ecosystem? Two broad classifications for structure: stratification and zonation. Anyone who has not understood any part of it, come on, tell me. Anyone who has got any confusion with this? Easy है. Okay. Then we'll go ahead with the functional role of ecosystem. Well, yeah. Now, as we saw the two zones, now how are these two zones going to be further studied along with the functions is what we have to understand. The structure of ecosystem consists of biotic and abiotic factors. The abiotic factors are non-living components like air, water, solar radiations, temperature, etc. And the biotic components will be what? Producer, consumer, decomposers. Okay. What's your doubt, beta? Inter-regional study को zone हाँ बोल सकते हैं. Yes, my dear. You're right. You're right. Perfectly right, Shruti. Okay. Yeah. So biotic components would be what? What would be the biotic competency? Producers, those who synthesize food. Photoautotrophs, chemoautotrophs. Consumers, primary consumers, herbivores. Secondary consumers, primary carnivores. Tertiary consumers, secondary carnivores. And top consumers, tertiary carnivores. Now, this is a very important point because you know about primary, secondary, tertiary and top. इस चार नाम पता है लेकिन आपके एग्जाम में कैसा आता है ना instead of saying secondary consumers they will say primary carnivores. So primary word दिमाग में आते ही आपकी आंखों के सामने सिर्फ herbivorous animals आते हैं हाँ या ना because herbivorous animals are primary consumers. But what are they saying? They are saying what are they saying? Primary carnivores बोल रहे हैं. So this is what we have to understand today. That those who are primary consumers would be called as herbivores. Those who are secondary consumers would also be called as primary carnivores. Those who are tertiary consumers would be called as secondary carnivores. And those who are top consumers would also be called as tertiary carnivores. So look at the question very precisely and accordingly try to answer the question. ठीक है? Decomposers तो easy है. They are only bacteria and fungi. So in biological classification, we have already seen the different fungi which are going to be, coming under this. Yes. Yeah. Exactly. Correct. Rats are secondary consumers. Rats are secondary consumers, na? Correct? Yes, but they can be primary also. They can be secondary also. Sometimes they eat, they eat whatever they get it. Okay. So they eat anything and everything. So if they're going to feed on fruits directly, then they would be the primary one. If they're going to consume something that, like an animal or something, a small shrew or something, it will be a secondary one. Right? Well, then the major functions. So what are the functions? The main function of ecosystem is associated with productivity. So more is the productivity, better would be the ecosystem. Second is decomposition. Without decomposition, there is no recycling of nutrients. है ना? Now you got it across what is primary and what is secondary. So if they have asked about primary consumer, then it would be herbivores. And yet if they have asked about primary carnivores, then they are going to be your secondary consumers. Okay? Okay? Yes. The third is energy flow. Very important point for our ecosystem is the energy flow. Okay? And nutrient cycling, of course. There is carbon cycling, nitrogen cycle, which we had studied in the chapter of mineral nutrition, rhizobium wala, है ना? So that is your nutrient cycling. In this chapter, we have to study carbon cycle and phosphorus cycle. ये दो cycle हमें ये वाले chapter में देखनी है, ठीक है? So these are the four important points of the functions. Here you can see, the decomposers who are also having these worms and all. Okay, they all come under this. Productivity is the first point which we have to understand. Now, many questions have been asked on productivity because there is something called as GPP, NPP, which you should know perfectly. So please pay attention to whatever is being said. The rate of biomass production per unit area during a period of time is called as productivity. So how would you define productivity? These definitions, these small questions are frequently asked in your board exams for 2 marks. Okay, so look at the definition precisely and write the definition perfectly in the same language. Do not change the language. So what is productivity? The rate of biomass production per unit area during a period of time is called as productivity. ठीक है? It is measured in terms of weight or grams per square, है ना? Or energy in the form of kilocalories. It is used to compare productivity of different areas, especially, or different areas of an ecosystem or two different ecosystems altogether. So, for example, the productivity of tropical rainforest will be much, much more higher as compared to the productivity of the deserts. Agreed? So, दो इकोसिस्टम्स लिए गए हैं, एक है डेजर्ट्स, दूसरा है ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट. इन दोनों का कंपैरिजन जब किया तो ट्रॉपिकल रेन फॉरेस्ट का प्रोडक्टिविटी इज मच मोर हायर because it is going to harbor much more producers. Correct? Now, in this, let us come to the first one, that is primary productivity. Okay? It is the amount of biomass produced per unit area in a given time period by plants by the process of photosynthesis. So, in productivity, we have got primary productivity. So, in primary productivity, always remember, beta, primary productivity is associated with photosynthesis. Primary productivity is associated with photosynthesis. Okay, got it? Now, what do you mean by this? Then secondary productivity, is it not associated with photosynthesis? No. Secondary productivity is not associated with photosynthesis. It is only the primary productivity which is associated with photosynthesis. ठीक है? Photosynthesis आया मतलब plants आया. So primary productivity is with respect to plants and secondary productivity is going to be with respect to animals. Can animals photosynthesize? Definitely not. So primary productivity plants से associated है, secondary productivity animals से associated है. कैसे? वो देखेंगे. ठीक है? तो पहला है primary productivity. Under primary productivity, you have got gross primary productivity and net primary productivity, which is abbreviated as GPP and NPP respectively. So what is primary gross primary productivity? See, gross means together, total. It is the rate of production of organic matter during photosynthesis. जितना सोलर एनर्जी अवेलेबल है उसको यूज करके जितना ग्लूकोज बनाया जा सकता है उसको हम कहते हैं प्राइमरी प्रोडक्टिविटी ऑफ ग्रॉस. ओके, टोटल. So total incident solar radiations available which can be converted into X number of glucose molecules will be called as what? Gross primary productivity. Okay. Now, what is net primary productivity? Net primary productivity is GPP minus R. That is, R is for respiration. So whatever amount of energy has been made in that plant body, the same energy will be used for its own metabolic activities. हाँ या ना? Correct? So जितना मैंने बनाया उसमें से मैंने कितना खर्च किया, उसके बाद मेरे पास जितना बचा है, that is my net gain. That is the net primary productivity. Did you all understand this? Okay. For example, there's a person who is earning, say 50,000 per month. There's a person who is earning 50,000 per month. On paper, उसका salary कितना है बेटा? 50,000. Okay. अब इनकम टैक्स माइनस हो गया है ना, और कोई जीएसटी रहेगा तो वो माइनस हो गया. फिर इलेक्ट्रिक का खर्चा, इलेक्ट्रिक बिल है, राशन का खर्चा है या नहीं, मिसलीनियस खर्चा, कितने सारे खर्चे होते हैं एक बंदे को. एक मंथ के कितने सारे खर्चे होते हैं, राइट? कितने एक्सपेंडिचर्स है आजकल. तो नाउ On paper, it is 50,000. But after deducting all these things at the end, how much I am able to save at the end of the month, that would be my NPP. Okay, got it? समझ में आ गया what is GPP and NPP? So GPP is the gross, while NPP is after deducting all the other expenditures, what actually remains. So the plant is going to make X amount of ATP. You know that one glucose gives us 38 ATP. Respiration chapter has already been taught to you. So you know what it is. So in that way, there are like say 1 lakh ATPs which have been formed. For example, bata rahi hai na, in the plant. But out of that 1 lakh, suppose 40,000 are going to be used for respiration or other metabolic activities. Then what is the net primary productivity now left with that plant? 60,000. Correct? So in that way, GPP and NPP is calculated. Any doubts with primary productivity, gross primary productivity, and net primary productivity? So see, GPP is not equal to NPP because there is going to be a considerable loss of energy which will be used by the plants in respiration. Okay? No need of, we will not need to calculate ATP at all. It's not our, there in our syllabus also, it's not our work also. There won't be any questions to calculate ATP. Don't worry about it. I'm just telling you for the reference work that how the things are calculated as GPP and NPP. Okay? Okay, fine. So it's going to be the organic matter kya hota hai? What is organic matter? Glucose. Glucose will undergo glycolysis, it will undergo acetylation, it will undergo Krebs cycle, it will undergo ETS cycle. So finally that glucose is only going to give us ATP. That is what we have seen. Right or wrong? NADH2, FADH2, substrate level phosphorylation. So ultimately that organic molecule is only going to get converted to form H2O and water, H2O and oxygen, and give us ATP. So ultimately, how much amount of organic matter will be collected will be equivalent to the number of energy molecules it's going to give us. And that energy only is going to be used up for respiration purposes. Okay? No need of calculating. That is what I'm saying. Okay? There's no need of any calculations over here. The conceptual things have to be understood. Have you all understood that? Anyone having any difficulty with these particular points? NPP, GPP, productivity in total? All of you all have understood? Okay, fine. Let's come to secondary productivity. It is the rate of formation of new organic matter in the consumer. Now see, as I said, it is nothing to do with photosynthesis. It is associated with the consumer. Let it be a primary consumer, let it be a secondary consumer, doesn't matter. So what are the new organic matter that will be produced in a consumer? What do you think? हमने कुछ खाया, हम कंज्यूमर हो गए, राइट? करेक्ट? सपोज हमने क्या खाया, कुछ भी ले लो यार, रॉ फ्रूट ले लो, मैंगो ले लो, चलो आपने मैंगो खाया, बराबर है? अब मैंगो इज व्हाट माय डियर? मैंगो इज द प्रोडक्ट ऑफ द प्लांट व्हिच इज हैविंग ओनली एनपीपी इन इट, because already during the respiration of that particular fruit the energy has been consumed. So that mango is having NPP. We have consumed the mango containing NPP. Now what will happen in our body? Come on, tell me of that mango. चलो बता. Digestion chapter पढ़ाया है आपको. पूरा डिटेल में नहीं चाहिए, but what will happen to it eventually? Come on, catabolism, anabolism. It will undergo what? Mango will undergo first what? बताओ. Mango will undergo catabolism or will it undergo anabolism? Catabolism, exactly. So after catabolism, what would happen? Some raw material will be added to our body, correct? Now these raw materials will be used by our cells for making some new cellular products. That will be called as what? Anabolism. Get me? Understood? So that particular raw material which will be used in the consumers for making some organic matter, that productivity will be called as secondary productivity. समझ में आ गई बात? देखिए एकदम सिंपल वाला एग्जांपल दे दूं आपको। अगर आपने स्प्राउट्स खाए हैं या आपने एग खाया है, चलो व्हाटएवर, ओके, स्प्राउट्स ले लो, एग ले लो, तो आपने प्रोटीन्स कंज्यूम किए, बराबर। नाउ प्रोटीन्स गॉट अंडरवेंट कैटाबॉलिज्म टू फॉर्म अमीनो एसिड्स, right? Now the same amino acids will be used by these cells to form suppose keratin. तो केराटिन क्या है? एनाबॉलिक प्रोडक्ट है, करेक्ट। इट्स ऑल्सो गोइंग टू बी हैविंग व्हाट, यू नो, सम और द अदर अमाउंट ऑफ कार्बन उसमें रहने ही वाला है, सिर्फ प्रोटीन्स नहीं हो सकते हैं, करेक्ट। तो वो बनाने के लिए, वो जो बनाया है अपने बॉडी ने, दैट इज गोइंग टू बी व्हाट, सेकेंडरी प्रोडक्टिविटी। इज इट फाइन? या फिर इफ इट्स गोइंग टू मेक से योर सेल मेम्ब्रेन, न्यू सेल मेम्ब्रेन, of course it's one more new organic matter wala form that has been made in our body. So anything that is going to be made new in our body as an anabolic product would be the secondary productivity. ठीक है? So primary productivity is associated with photosynthesis and plants. Secondary productivity is associated with consumers. In them, how the anabolism is going to give rise to a new organic matter. Is it completely understood? Anyone who has not understood any part of productivity with respect to primary, gross primary, net primary, and secondary. Anyone having any difficulty in understanding these points, my dears? Got this clearly? Good. Now see what it is going to be actually, calculated as. See, it is the rate of storage of organic matter which is not consumed by the consumers. Means what? Whatever has been newly formed in my body, I am still living, right? And I'm not going to be, like as of now, I am not consumed by someone. I know human beings को consume मतलब वो सिर्फ wild cats ही आते हैं जो human beings को consume करते हैं, of course. But in general, okay. So you can take the example of a rat. You can take the example of a rat, right? Suppose that rat has made some organic matter in its body by consuming something, okay. Now unless and until the rat is not eaten by the cat, whatever it has made is going to be present in its body for its own use, correct. But if that rat will be consumed by the cat, what will the cat get? Cat will get the stored organic matter of the rat. Agreed? समझ में आ गई बात? तो कैट को क्या मिला बेटा? कैट को और थोड़ा कम न्यूट्रिशन मिला, पता है क्यों? क्यों? क्योंकि रैट ने जो फ्रूट खाया है, वो फ्रूट में जो नेट प्राइमरी प्रोडक्टिविटी थी, वो सारी की सारी उतनी रैट को मिली। रैट ने क्या करा? रैट ने ये एनपीपी को ब्रेक कराकर अपना खुद का एक ऑर्गेनिक मैटर बनाया, लेकिन खुद वो रेस्पिरेशन कर रहा है, खुद वो मेटाबॉलिज्म कर रहा है। तो उस जितना उसको मैंगो में से मिला था, उसमें से ही क्वांटिटी का ऑर्गेनिक मैटर नहीं बना। देयर वर दीज लॉसेस, है ना। तो जितना फ्रूट में था उतना ही अमाउंट ऑफ ऑर्गेनिक मैटर रैट में नहीं आया, मतलब नहीं स्टोर हुआ, उससे थोड़ा कम हो गया, बिकॉज रैट वाज रेस्पायरिंग, रैट वाज परफॉर्मिंग मेटाबॉलिज्म। तो बिकॉज ऑफ दैट देयर वर लॉसेस फ्रॉम द रैट। सो नाउ द रैट विल बी ईटन बाय द कैट। सो कैट के पास क्या हो जाएगा? इट विल गेट द स्टोर्ड organic matter of the rat, which is going to be lesser than the fruit, correct na? Understood? So what it has consumed? It has consumed the same amount of organic matter which is stored in the rat. Agreed? Agreed? Huh? So in this way, don't you think when the cat will be consumed by some other animal, that time उसको और थोड़ा कम मिलेगा एनर्जी? At every level, don't you think the energy loss होते जाने वाला है बेटा, है ना? तो ये जो कंटिन्यूअस लॉस होता जाता है ना एनर्जी का, वही हमें आगे जाके पढ़ना है एज पिरामिड ऑफ एनर्जी। ओके ना? गॉट इट? Yes. So this is how the cycle will be continued. So secondary productivity is the rate of storage of organic matter which is not used by the consumer. It is equivalent to the net primary production minus the consumption of the heterotrophic organism, right? So it's going to be minus y because he himself, the rat itself, is going to perform metabolic activities. So it's going to be minus. Okay, got it? It is generally expressed as production of carbon per gram per meter square per day. So ये जो फॉर्मूले है ना, ये याद रखने पड़ेंगे बेटा, ये आते हैं आपके एग्जाम में, ठीक है? The annual net productivity, now we are talking about the whole biosphere. The annual net productivity of the whole biosphere is approximately 170 billion tons dry matter of organic matter. Okay, so 170 billion tons in the whole biosphere. Remember the value. Of this, contribution of oceans is approximately 55 billion tons. So out of 170 billion tons, 55 billion tons of productivity is found in oceans. Rest in terrestrial environment. Okay? Anyone having any difficulty with this particular content? Anyone who did not follow this? Anyone? नहीं आता है तो बोलो बिंदास, कोई टेंशन नहीं है. समझा सबको? क्या बात है भाई, आज एकदम मस्त. ये टॉपिक इजी है लेकिन ये बातें कभी कभी नहीं हो जाती है ना, इसीलिए. Okay, then we come to decomposition, which is actually very easy. It is a process of breakdown of dead organic matter into smaller organic and inorganic molecules, which are going to be carried out by a group of organisms called as decomposers, which are bacteria and fungi predominantly. Correct? That is decomposition. So you have to remember it is the breakdown of dead organic matter. ठीक है? What is detritus? You know what is detritus? ये नाम सुना है detritus? Yes. So raw materials of decomposition as dead plants, animals, animal feces is called as detritus. So जो भी कचरा बोलते हैं हम लोग, कचरा है ये, वो है detritus. तो dead plants कहीं गिरते हैं, plants गिर के वो पूरे मतलब यू नो आपने देखा होगा आपके कंपाउंड में भी कभी कभी बहुत ज्यादा लीव्स पत्ते झड़ के पूरा कंपाउंड जो है ना वो पूरा पत्तों से भर जाता है. इट लुक्स वेरी लाइक गंदा लगता है ना वो, या फिर कोई रैट मर के गिर गया वो कंपाउंड में तो ईक्स. सो व्हाट इज दैट? दैट इज detritus. Okay, so raw materials of decomposition as dead plants, animals, animal feces. Animal feces तो common है. If you have got cats and dogs in your compound ना, तो animal feces तो आपको हमेशा मतलब चलता ही रहता है ना? तो if you are going to any place like a rural place and all, वहाँ पर cow dung is very famous. कभी ना कभी तो पैर गिरा होगा आपका cow dung में, गिरा है कभी? Have you all stamped the cow dung any time in your life? Yes or no? Cake cutting, yeah, we call it as that only ना. केक मत कट कर. सैडली यस. अरे उसमें सैड क्या है, चलता है. इफ नो देन माय गॉड, आई मीन होता है. बहुत मजा आता है रूरल एरियाज में. अपने विलेज साइड पे जाएंगे और अगर ऐसा कुछ होता है ना, और आपके साथ आपके अगर मतलब रिलेटिव्स है, फ्रेंड्स है, मतलब आपके एज के जो आपके भाई बहन फ्रेंड्स को कोई भी हो, तो फिर वो लोग को चढ़ाने में भी फिर उनको आपको मजा आ जाता है, राइट? इधर भी है, इधर भी कभी कभी. nowadays so like now you people are not that much exposed to all these things, but when we used to go to school and all, it was a common thing. So we used to go walking from the I used to stay in an area and my school was in different area, so we had to go walking to our school. मतलब स्कूल बस थी लेकिन वो बहुत बोर लगता था बस में जाने के लिए, तो हम सारे फ्रेंड्स का पूरा ग्रुप ना we used to walk to our school every day early morning 6:40 or something. We had to leave our house and we reached school in 10 minutes by walking मतलब actually running. तो बहुत लेट होता था तो भाग के ही जाते थे हम लोग. So we had to walk through a farm. We had to, yeah. Initially I used to stay at Bandra and then we shifted to Borivali, of course. So we had to walk through that farm and we had to go. So वो टाइम पे ये सब चीजें बहुत बार हमने स्कूल जाते जाते घाई घाई में नीचे देखने का ही नहीं, भागते जाने का। सो ये केक कटिंग हम लोग ने बहुत बार किया हुआ है। तो ऑफ कोर्स कभी-कभी मतलब मज़ा भी आता था, लेकिन वो पूरे दिन उसको लेके नहीं बैठ पाते थे ना, वो सैंडल्स को डाल के, शूज़ को डाल के। देन स्कूल में जाते ही फर्स्ट वी हैड टू गो एंड वॉश आवर एंटायर शू, फिर उसको बहुत मतलब बहुत नाटक किए रहे स्कूल के। स्कूल की तो कहानियाँ खत्म नहीं होंगी, है या नहीं? स्कूल लाइफ इज़ द बेस्ट लाइफ, राइट? आई बिलीव इन दैट। स्कूल लाइफ इज़ द बेस्ट लाइफ। But anyways, you will now enjoy the college life also once you are through with your 12th standard, and you will be reaching your destinations, and then you will be actually enjoying those days also. Then like seriously I'll tell you, the 5.5 years of MBBS ना, that time also you don't feel like leaving the college then. वो 5 साल का जो एक बॉन्डिंग हो जाता है ना अपने कॉलेज के साथ, वो भी बहुत मस्त हो जाता है। बट एनीवेज, लाइफ मूव्स ऑन, कीप्स ऑन चेंजिंग, राइट? सो वी हैव टू आल्सो मूव ऑन। ये क्या आ गया भाई बीच में? Yes. So you know what is detritus now? Okay. You are experiencing it till now, na? Yes. Now, what is detrivorous or detrivores? Now, the animals that are going to eat or that are going to feed on the detritus are going to be called as detrivores. So, animals that feed on decaying organic matter, that is a detritus पे जो feed करते हैं, they are going to be called as detrivores. Examples कौन है देखो? Earthworms, termites, snails, they all are going to feed on this, dead plants and dead animals and animal feces and all. Okay, so that is decomposition, detritus, and detrivores. Is it fine? Uh, we have not experienced college life yet. I know, my dear, I know. क्या तुम्हारा बैड लक खराब है पता नहीं मुझे। मतलब मुझे लगा था कि अभी अपना मतलब चालू हो जाएगा लेक्चर्स एंड ऑन ऑफलाइन वाला, और उसमें ये सेकंड वेव आ गया। God only knows that when all the things are going to be normalized. What is the difference between decomposers and detrivores? Detrivores are going to feed on the, uh, you know, large chunks of the dead and decaying matter. बड़े बड़े, और उनको है ना फिर वो छोटे 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 पीसेस में कट करेगा, और वो छोटे छोटे जो बिल्कुल माइन्यूट पीसेस बन जाएंगे ना वो, उसके उसके ऊपर फिर बैक्टीरिया और फंगाई फीड कर पाएगा। उसको हम कहते हैं डीकम्पोजिशन। ओके। No, even MBBS kids are not allowed to go now. They are also at home only. Even their online lectures are going on. Even their online lectures are going on. Okay, so you understood the difference between decomposition and detrivores. So decomposers cannot directly attack on that large chunk. It will take a very long time for decaying that leaf. But when the leaf will be broken down into small pieces, it will be easy for them to then act on it. Okay? So that's about your 3 more definitions. Now, what are the steps of decomposition? Let us see. So now you will understand the actual difference between them. See, fragmentation of detritus. It is the process of breaking of detritus into small particles. It is going to be done by the detrivores like earthworms, termites, snails that we saw. Okay. Second is leaching. Now you might have heard about this word leaching. Let us understand it. Leaching, soluble inorganic nutrients. Inorganic. This word is important. In your exams, they will change it to organic and make the sentence incorrect. So be very precise. Soluble, those which can get solubilized, and those which are inorganic. Okay, they dissolve in water and they go down to reach the soil. There inside the soil, these will get precipitated. This process is called as leaching. So the precipitation of soluble inorganic nutrients in the soil is called as leaching. Did you all understand what is it? Okay. So what is leaching, beta? Dissolving the inorganic nutrients into water, then they reach the soil, and in the soil now they will get precipitated, and this process is going to be called as leaching. So the first step is fragmentation. Second step is leaching. Okay. The third is catabolism. Now it will undergo catabolism. That is decomposition. So see, decomposers like bacteria, fungi release enzymes. You know that fungi are going to be releasing enzymes, right? To decompose detritus into simpler inorganic compounds. So you know what actually, beta, leaching and catabolism, though they have called it as 2 and 3, they both are taking place simultaneously. इन दोनों प्रोसेसेस जब साइमल्टेनियस होते हैं ना, तो ही ये पूरा प्रोसेस डिकम्पोजिशन का कंप्लीट हो जाएगा. ठीक है. तो कैटाबॉलिज्म में क्या करते हैं डिकम्पोजर्स? दे विल रिलीज एंजाइम्स and those enzymes will then break down. Suppose for example, the enzyme cellulase is going to be released by the fungi. It will digest what? Cellulose. Correct. And then that will lead to decomposition of the detritus, and that will lead to the formation of inorganic compounds. Now these inorganic compounds only will get dissolved in water. They will reach the soil and they will precipitate by the process of leaching. So catabolism, leaching, almost they take place simultaneously. Okay. Fourth is humification. That is, what is humification? Humus formation. So simplified detritus is converted to humus. Humus is a dark amorphous substance. Amorphous का मतलब है the one which cannot dissolve in water. जैसे कि आपका talcum powder होता है ना, talcum powder, उसको आप पानी में डिसॉल्व करने की कोशिश करो, वो कभी डिसॉल्व नहीं होगा बेटा, राइट. गुलाल होता है अपना, गुलाल होली का, वो भी कभी डिसॉल्व नहीं होगा पानी में. कलर हो जाता है बट गुलाल नहीं होगा. Okay, that is called as amorphous. So even humus is going to be dark amorphous substance. It is highly resistant to microbial activity. See, so एक बार humus बन जाएगा ना, now it is very difficult for the bacteria and the fungi to further decompose it. Okay, it undergoes decomposition very slowly because it is resistant to microbial attack. So the rate of decomposition of humus is going to take several months to several years also sometimes. Humus is thus going to be a reservoir of nutrients due to colloidal nature. Colloidal nature is different sized particles will be present in humus. Okay. So that is humification. And lastly, we have got mineralization. Now what will happen in mineralization? See, humus is degraded slowly, of course, to release inorganic substances like carbon dioxide, water, etc. and nutrients like ions, Ca2 plus, Mg2 plus, K plus, etc. And that will then add to the soil, which will be then uptaken as ions by the roots for the plant ka transport. Okay. Okay. Fine. So am I lagging? Am I lagging? My voice is lagging, my dears. No, na? So maybe connection error in your area, beta. Just check out. So what is mineralization? You understood? I know. Sometimes it happens. Yeah, now again rains have started. Since morning it was not raining here. Now again it started. God knows. Yeah. So you understood what is mineralization? So humus is degraded very slowly to release the inorganic substances and the nutrients, which are ions. Fragmentation, leaching, catabolism, humification, mineralization. This question comes for 5 marks. ये आपके बोर्ड एग्जाम में 5 मार्क के लिए आता है. Explain decomposition with the steps involved in the process. So you will have to explain all these things in this way, the way I have shown. Any difficulty in understanding any of the points? Anyone who has not understood any of the points? Look at the slide quickly. Look at every sentence of it. Mineralization, when humus will be formed, beta, it will be degraded very slowly. And when it's going to get degraded, what will be the end product of it? The end product of humus will be formation of minerals, ions basically. So calcium ions है, potassium ions है, अपने मैग्नीशियम है, मैंगनीज है, जो भी उस टाइम उस सॉइल में है ना, उनको ये प्रोसेस से रिलीज करना सॉइल में इज मिनरलाइजेशन, right? Leaching. Okay. See what happens, my dear. Whenever the detritus is going to get degraded, that time it's going to form organic as well as inorganic components, right? So organic components will further undergo decomposition by the your decomposers, but inorganic fraction which is going to remain, now that inorganic fraction needs to also undergo some form of degradation. So that inorganic component will be then dissolved in water. It will reach the soil. Inside the soil, it will undergo precipitation, okay, by the action of certain acids and alkalis. And this precipitation से जो मतलब ये जो process है, जिधर ये salts precipitate हो चुके हैं, okay, that will be called as leaching. Now these salts after precipitation will get combined in the humus, and now this humus will slowly get degraded, and it will release this inorganic substances as ions again into the soil only, which will then be taken up either actively or passively by the plant for its own well-being. So in the chapter of mineral nutrition, we have seen so many, the role of so many such ions, that if they are not there, what would happen? Correct. So this is the way the all the dead and decaying matter is going to undergo the same process, the 5 steps which have been explained over here. Is it fine? Have you all understood? Why is it resistant? Because it is not going to be further attacked. They do not have any like organic nutrients present in it, so that the bacteria or fungi will attack it for its nutrition. So they are not going to be they're of no use to these bacteria and fungi. So who is going to go and attack them for no reason? Okay. Yeah, humus is good because it is going to hold all these nutrients inside it. So जहाँ ह्यूमस ज्यादा होता है ना बेटा, वहां पर न्यूट्रिएंट्स का जो पूल रहता है ना, वो बहुत ज्यादा रहता है. इट कैन होल्ड अ लॉट ऑफ न्यूट्रिएंट्स. ठीक है, गॉट इट? अंडरस्टूड दिस स्लाइड वेरी क्लियरली? Well, what are the factors that affect the rate of decomposition? Chemical composition. Decomposition rate will become slow when detritus is rich in lignin and chitin. Lignin is resistant. It will be taking a very long time to get degraded. So whenever the detritus contains more of lignin and chitin, the process of decomposition will become slow. Okay. The rate increases when the detritus is rich in nitrogen, water, and soluble substances like sugar. Arey, why that? Keep mango in your house like that way only for 15 days, 10 days. What will happen? Immediately it will be attacked by microbes, ना? तुरंत वो काला होके पूरा पचक जाता है, हाँ या ना? जहाँ शुगर ज्यादा है, जहाँ नाइट्रोजन ज्यादा है, जहाँ वाटर कंटेंट ज्यादा है, वहाँ माइक्रोबियल अटैक फास्ट हो जाता है, right? So depending upon the chemical composition of the detritus, it will be changing the rate of decomposition. More lignin, more chitin, slower decomposition. More sugar, more nitrogen, more water, faster decomposition, right? Climatic condition, yes. For the decomposition to progress at a faster rate, the condition should be warm, moist, humid. So warm and moist environment favors decomposition. Low temperature and anaerobiosis inhibit decomposition. So what do you mean by this particular sentence? For decomposition to occur, it requires oxygenic conditions. Anaerobic conditions are not going to favor decomposition. So, for the efficient decomposition to take place, there should be proper aeration available, there should be warm and humid condition, and it has to be moist. अगर ये conditions है तो आपका जो decomposition का process है वो fast हो जाएगा, right? हाँ, yeah, they are aerobic bacteria. Yes, my dear, they are aerobic bacteria. Perfect. Okay. The third thing that affects the rate of decomposition is going to be the food chain. Okay, that is transfer of energy or transfer of food from the producer through a series of organisms is going to be called as food chain. Now, in this food chains, also what happens, like at what rate or which particular organism needs to be, undergoing decomposition after death is important. So, a small worm, it will undergo decomposition very quickly, right? But a large animal will take, even rats will take so much time for decompositions, right? Natural decomposition. So that is also going to be there. But then what are food chains actually? Transfer of energy, correct? That is food from the producer through a series of organisms to the next level, to the next level, to the next level is going to be the food chain. So from the factors affecting decomposition, we now enter into the food chain indirectly. That is how food chain is also going to affect the decomposition, and what is going to be the food chain, that also we have to understand now. Is it fine? So see, food chain represents energy flow through the ecosystem. Different steps in food chain are called trophic levels. So what are the different steps of food chain that will be called as your trophic level? So we call it as T1, T2, T3, T4, like that way we call it. Is it fine? So have you all understood this particular thing? I know this is very simple, but still, no doubts? Okay. Yeah. Now we have got different types of food chain, that is GFC and DFC. So first we talk about GFC, that is grazing food chain. So the food chain that begins with producers, see, yeah, continued with herbivores is called as the grazing food chain. So grass is going to be the producer, eaten by the goat, which is the primary consumer, eaten by man, who is the secondary consumer. Okay, got it? So this chain is going to be your grazing food chain, right? Look at the DFC. In your exams, they give GFC and DFC. They don't use the word grazing food chain and detritus food chain. So you should be already knowing what is the full form of GFC and what is the full form of DFC. हाँ बेटा, दोनों आपको पता होने चाहिए. The food chain that begins with the dead or the decaying matter is called as detritus food chain. Suppose a dead leaf will be acted upon by the earthworm, and the earthworm would be eaten by the bird. So this is your DFC. But don't you think even bird can come over here? Or rather here also the bird can come. The bird can directly consume the plant. प्लांट का सैप खा सकता है ना? नेक्टर लेता है वो प्लांट में से, करेक्ट? तो वो तो डायरेक्ट हो गया. या फिर इधर भी आ सकता है बर्ड, इफ इट इज गोइंग टू कंज्यूम व्हाट? सीड. सीड क्यों बेटा सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर क्यों है? सीड जो खाता है उसको सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर क्यों कहते हैं? बिकॉज सीड के अंदर क्या होता है? एम्ब्रियो. Okay, fine. So in that way, even bird can come here. It can, even the bird can come here because maybe the worm is eating the fruit and the worm is eaten by the bird also. Okay, so anyone can come anywhere, which is going to be called as the food web, जो आगे आने वाला है, of course. Saprophytes are nothing but your bacteria and fungi only. These are decomposers, which are called as saprophytes, including bacteria and fungi, which feed on detritus. Is it fine? समझ में आ गई बात? तो GFC और DFC क्या है, समझा? हाँ, yes, scavengers भी इन्वॉल्व होंगे. हाँ वही तो, that is what the chain can be too long. It can be interconnected also. Okay, yeah. Trophic level, at each step of the food chain we call it as a trophic level, and there is something called as a standing crop. Please don't get confused between two words. और एक standing कुछ आने वाला है आगे, जिसको हम कहते हैं standing biomass. There's a difference between standing crop and standing biomass. Understand what is the difference. At each trophic level, okay, we are going to talk about the standing crop. See, each trophic level has a certain mass of living material at a particular time, which is going to be called as the standing crop. So what is a standing crop? Every trophic level will have a living material at a particular time. That particular material will be called as the standing crop. So it is nothing to do with the fields. It is nothing to do with your crops. It is within you and me also. हमारे में जो लिविंग सेल्स है, हमारे लिविंग सेल्स में जो एक लिविंग मटेरियल है ना, उसको हम कहते हैं स्टैंडिंग क्रॉप. The standing crop is measured as the mass of living organisms, that is the biomass, or the number in a unit area. So it can be calculated as how many numbers, or it can be calculated as biomass, the mass of the living organisms. ठीक है? Food web, the natural interconnections of the food chain forms a web called as the food web. So we have to understand what is the food web now. I was lagging, so you have not understood what is standing crop, or understood? Again, I'll explain. Again, I'll explain. Understand. Each trophic level has a certain mass of living material in it. Okay? Living material at a particular time. This is called as the standing crop. Okay? So this crop is nothing associated with your fields or your farms. कुछ नहीं है वो. ये आप में और हम में भी ये standing crop है आज, अभी, है ना? जब तक हम जिंदा है तब तक. Right? So the standing crop is measured as the mass of living organisms, which is called as biomass, और numbers में counting होता है उनका. 100 trees या फिर 1 ton, like that way. Okay, that is the standing crop. Is it fine? Yeah. Food web, interconnections of the food chain is going to be called as the food web. Let us see what are the different food webs. Here देखो. In this diagram only you will come to know how beautiful they have given. See, look at this. Look at this. Grasses hai, can be eaten by any one of these herbivores. Correct? These can be in turn eaten by any one of the carnivores. Right? So there are so many interconnections, so many arrows going, see, here and there. So that is going to be an example of your food web. They are webbed, they are intermingled, they are mixed, they are not fixed. Okay? Yeah. Now we come to something called as energy flow. We know that the celestial source called as sun is the only energy source which is going to give us solar energy, which will be fixed by the producers into what, beta? The producers will fix it into ATP and heat. The producers will be consumed by the consumers. The consumers will be consumed by whom? The consumers will also give out heat, and they will also be, if they get, if they die and they are decomposed by the decomposers, correct? The decomposers would also finally give out heat energy. They'll get converted into inorganic nutrient pool, Ca plus, Mg plus, Mn plus, K plus, Cl minus, Zn plus. क्या क्या देखे थे हमने, है ना? तो आपको याद है वो चॉनपैक टैस्मग, MnZn BQ मोकल फ्लैंक बाय फेनी, तो इतने सारे हमने देखे थे. उनमें से सिर्फ चॉन जो है वो एटमॉस्फेरिक है, आगे के सारे जो है वो soil pool है. So they will enter into the nutrient pool as inorganic matter of the soil, which will be again picked up by the producers. Got this clear? So the energy flow is going to be, recycled in this way. So more would be the, photosynthetic yield, more would be this cycle efficiently working. Correct? Yeah. So this is a chart given in your NCERT textbooks, my dears. That is energy flow through different trophic levels. Sun is giving energy, solar energy, which is giving heat as well. First trophic level, that is producers. They'll be consumed by the secondary trophic level, that is the primary consumers or herbivores. At every stage, they are giving out heat. You know that we all are what? Homeostatic organisms. Look at this one. This will be eaten away by the third one, third with the fourth one, and so on. And they all can any times, be decomposed after death. Anyone. Even this one, even this one, even this one, even this one. They all are going to die someday and they'll get decomposed by these decomposers. So this is the way the cycle of energy flow is going to be explained. Okay. Yes. Then we come to ecological pyramids. These things, I guess, are already known to you all, but still we have to have in our syllabus. Graphical representation of energy, biomass, or number of different organisms in an ecosystem is in the form of a pyramid called as ecological pyramid. Right? So what is an ecological pyramid? Define ecological pyramid will come for 1 mark in your board exams. You have to write this way. That is the graphical representation of what all things? Energy, biomass, or number. Of whom? Of different organisms. Kahan ka? Ecosystem ka. So in an ecosystem, in the form of what? In the form of pyramids, is what we called as your ecological pyramid. Okay? What are the characteristic features of ecological pyramids? The base of the pyramid is broad and is narrow at the apex. The relationship can be expressed in the terms of number, energy, or biomass. You can see primary producers and top consumers. इनमें जो है वो numbers भी घट रहे हैं, biomass भी घट रहा है और energy भी घट रहा है, इसलिए वो ऐसे typical cone shape बन रहे हैं, right? The base of the pyramid is represented by the producer and the apex is represented by the top consumer. Other trophic levels are in between. There could be any, but we generally give 3 or 4 maximum. Okay? In most ecosystems, all pyramids of number, energy, and biomass are upright. In most, they are saying. They are not saying in all. So you are going to see some differences, some variations with respect to this sentence. In most, they are saying, not all. So if in your exam it comes that all pyramids, then it will be a wrong sentence. Okay? So in this particular diagram only you can see the producer is going to be the largest, followed by the herbivores which are primary consumers. उससे भी कम है primary carnivores or secondary consumers, और उससे भी कम है secondary carnivores या tertiary consumers. Correct? So broader at the base and getting narrower at the apex is what the characteristic feature is going to be. Okay? Understood this? Well, then first we are going to talk about the pyramid of numbers. These show the number of individuals at each trophic level. The length of each bar is proportional to the number of organisms. It was British ecologist called as Charles Elton who recognized such diagrams, and therefore they are also called as Elton's pyramids or Eltonian pyramids. So see, so pyramids of number are therefore referred to as Eltonian pyramids. Now, those who are going ahead with KVPY exams, I want all of you all to give the KVPY exams, of course, coming in, I guess, November में forms out हो जाएंगे. January में आपके exams होंगे KVPY के. So I want all of you all to give the KVPY exam. You want to go into research or you don't want to go into research is a different story, but you will get exposed to different types of questions that are going to be asked in that exam. So I want all of you all to register yourself for KVPY. So in that, generally, these type of questions are given. Eltonian pyramids. So Eltonian pyramids is only and only for pyramids of number, not for biomass and energy. Okay. So in the number pyramids, predators are generally more than the prey. Okay. At higher trophic levels, less energy enters, and so it is distributed to lesser individuals. Thus, the pyramid of number appears to be upright. Upright means what? Base broad or apex छोटा, है ना? That is called as upright. See, upright pyramid of numbers. Base broad है और ये जो है वो कम है. So it is 5842,000. कितने हैं primary producers? 7,08,000 are your primary consumers. 3,54,000 are your secondary consumers. And look at this, only 3. They are so least. है ना? So that is the number ka pyramid. Okay. Upright pyramid is observed in this particular numbers when the producers are maximum, that is the graph, while the primary consumers are less than the producers. So example, what they have given, see, the rabbits which feed on grass. Okay. while the secondary consumers are still lesser. The fox that feed on rabbits. Consumers are least in number. Lions or tigers which prey upon fox. Okay, such type of pyramid of number forms an upright pyramid. So you can very well see over here how it's going to be upright. Grass, if you count individual grass, it's going to be highest. Rabbits which feed on them will be lesser than the number of grasses. Foxes which feed on rabbits will be still lesser than the rabbits. And lions and tigers and these top carnivores who feed on these small animals will be still lesser than them in numbers. Okay? Have you all understood what is pyramid of number and upright one? But they are saying mostly it is upright. That means it can be something else also, right? Yes. So the second way of pyramids of number is called as bulged pyramid. Okay. See, however, pyramid of numbers need not always be upright. We can have bulged pyramid. So what do you mean by the word bulged? Bulging. When producers are less in number, for example, take the example of an oak tree. Yeah, I guess there was some net issue. There was some net issue. I got completely disconnected. I thought what happened. Okay, किधर है? Yes. So we were here. Huh. So I was talking about what? The bulged one. Yeah. So yeah. See how it is bulging? Yeah, it's raining in Borivali. I know, but so maybe there is some network issue. कभी कभी होता है. चलता है. So yes, yes. See. So here imagine this. This is a single oak tree. है ना? ये क्या है? ये एक single oak tree है. और ये single oak tree पे अगर आप देखोगे ना, तो what you so what you come to know that on this one single oak tree there are so many caterpillars, right? Now caterpillars को खाने वाले blackbirds उससे कम हैं और ये blackbirds को buzzards खाते हैं वो और भी कम है ना? Right? So in that way what is happening? In between there is a bulging. So it's not necessary that always the numbered ka pyramid has to be upright. Okay, it can be bulged from the center also, right? See, so when the producers are less in number, example oak tree, the primary consumers are too much in number, example caterpillars which feed on them, and the secondary consumers are again lesser in number, example birds that feed on caterpillar. Correct? Such type of pyramid cannot be called as upright. So what is an upright pyramid, beta? Upright pyramid का मतलब होता है broad base and tapering apex. This is bulged pyramid, which is lesser number of producers, more number of primary consumers, less number of secondary consumers, and least number of tertiary consumers. ठीक है कोई difficulty bulged समझने में? Anyone having any difficulty with understanding of bulged pyramid of numbers? Understood? Yes. Then we have got something called as inverted pyramid. Okay, 1 minute, huh? Just 1 minute. Okay, so here, yeah, disturbed food chain could have, it can be, but not necessarily it's disturbed. Sometimes it's in nature only, right? Look at the third type where the numbers could be inverted. Okay, look at the inverted one. Oh my God, this particular thing is coming in between. I hate when that box comes in between. बाबा बहुत irritating होता है वो. हाँ, so I know, it's very irritating. Yeah, see, inverted pyramid numbers कैसे होता है देखो. It has been observed that the producers are going to be very less in number. For example, a single mango tree, okay, with fruits. The primary consumers are more than the producers. Example, the birds that feed on the mango tree or the mangoes, in fact. Secondary consumers are maximum in number. That is the parasites on each of the birds. Parasites, bird के ऊपर वो छोटे छोटे parasites होते हैं ना, बहुत सारे होते हैं, है ना? The pyramid of numbers could now be as inverted also. So the pyramid of numbers can vary according to the prevailing conditions. So numbers का जो pyramid होता है, कभी upright होता है, कभी bulged होता है, कभी inverted होता है. तो inverted वाले का कितना मस्त example इन लोगों ने दिया है, देखो. Look at this. Again, I'm saying these are not given in your NCERT textbooks, and they have only said it could be inverted, it could be upright, it could be bulged, but they have not explained all these things. So I want you all to understand the explanations, my dear. A single mango tree with many mangoes, of course. There are several birds which are going to feed on the one mango tree, and there are so many parasites which are going to be present on each of the birds. So suppose there are, say, 10 mangoes, okay, and there are 100 birds, and on each bird there are 1,000 parasites. Inverted. Okay, so that's about your number pyramid. Well, then we come to something called as pyramid of biomass. They do feed on birds. They are ectoparasites. Just like how lice will feed on the blood, na, the same way these parasites, small insects, will feed on the blood of the bird. Okay, they do feed. Yeah. Then we talk about pyramid of biomass. These show the dry weight of the organisms, which is called as a standing crop, in the trophic level at a particular point of time. The length of the bars is proportional to the biomass in each level. Biomass represents the chemical energy stored in the organic matter of the trophic level, right? So it's the chemical energy which is going to be stored in the form of what? Organic matter, correct? Then one must remember that the trophic level is going to be, sorry, yeah, the trophic level is going to be representing the functional level, not a species as such. This is the most important point of your pyramid of biomass, beta. बहुत important है, समझो इसको. One must remember that what? That the trophic level represents functional level and not a species as such. ओके, तो ये जो एग्जाम्पल हम लोग देखने वाले हैं ना बायोमास के लिए, वो फंक्शनल लेवल के हिसाब से देखने वाले हैं, स्पीशीज लेवल के हिसाब से नहीं देखने वाले. I'll tell you the example, you will come to know, of course. A given species may occupy more than one trophic level in that particular pyramid in the same ecosystem at the same time. For example, a sparrow is a primary consumer when it feeds on seeds and fruits, but it is a secondary consumer when it eats insects and worms. So we are not talking with respect to species. We are talking with respect to its function, whether it's a primary consumer, whether it's a secondary consumer. Samjha the meaning of this sentence? Each trophic level means प्राइमरी कंज्यूमर है या सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर है, ये फंक्शनल लेवल पे डिसाइड होगा बेटा. कि जब वो स्पैरो सीड्स खाता है, फ्रूट्स खाता है, तो उसको हम कहेंगे प्राइमरी लेवल का कंज्यूमर. जब वो वर्म्स खाएगा, इंसेक्ट्स खाएगा, तो उसी स्पीशीज को, उसी स्पैरो को हम कहेंगे सेकेंडरी कंज्यूमर. So now understand the meaning of that particular sentence, that the trophic level represents functional role and not species as such. Anyone having any difficulty with this particular thing? Huh? Anyone who has not understood anything from this particular thing, this line? Most important है, ये समझेगा तो pyramid of biomass easy हो जाएगा. Clear ना? Fine. Upright pyramid of biomass. Biomass of pyramids also going to be generally upright. Okay, they are sharply going to be distinguished from the producers till the top level carnivores at the apex, because energy transfers between the trophic level are also so inefficient. For example, a producer, which is a mango tree, has highest biomass as compared to the herbivores feeding on them. ठीक है, तो तुम एक मैंगो ट्री का बायोमास ले लो, राइट, और बर्ड का ले लो. हु वुड बी मोर हेवियर, bird or the mango tree? Obviously the mango tree, right? Exactly. While the biomass of the birds is higher than the secondary consumers, that is the parasites present on them. So if you take the biomass of the parasites, it's going to be far more lesser as compared to the birds, right? Therefore, this is going to give an upright type of a pyramid in biomass. So here you can say, here if you look at this, you can very well see the biomass is how much? 809 kg per meter cube. Primary consumer 37 kg per meter cube. Secondary consumer 11 kg per meter cube. And tertiary consumer only 1.5 kg per meter cube. Okay, so even biomass of pyramid of biomass could be upright. It could be upright, but it can be something else also, as we have seen for pyramid of numbers. So see, as we have seen the inverted pyramids for numbers, we also experience inverted pyramid for biomass. This is seen especially in aquatic ecosystems. So what does it see? Pond ecosystem agar le to, see, some aquatic ecosystems have inverted biomass pyramids with primary consumers outweighing the producers. So for example, the biomass of diatoms in a lake is very small because the zooplanktons which consume these phytoplanktons, uh, they are going to consume it so quickly that the producers would never develop a size or a standing crop. So what was the standing crop? The actual living matter present in a organism at a particular time. So as soon as the diatoms are going to be formed, or as soon as the phytoplanktons are going to be formed, immediately they'll be eaten by the zooplanktons. So what will happen? Suppose 100 kg of diatoms have been formed. But by the time you measure that living matter, before that only they have to be consumed by the zooplanktons. So zooplanktons probably are only say 50 kgs, but they consume the entire 90 kgs. So what will always happen? What will be remaining for measuring would be only 10. So therefore, In this case, the the producers are always overpowered by the the consumers is what has been given as an example. Okay. Nevertheless, productivity by the phytoplanktons is fairly high, of course, because phytoplanktons are the chief producers of oceans, is what we have studied in Protista biological classification. Okay. Yeah, there is going to be competition as well, of course, right? So look at this. Phytoplanktons are lesser with respect to the biomass as far as zooplanktons. Zooplankton से भी biomass बढ़ा रहेगा small fish का, और small fish से भी ज़्यादा बढ़ा रहेगा biomass large fish का. But obvious, if you take a shark and you weigh it, and you take a small fish and you weigh it, large difference, correct? So this is going to cause inverted biomass, right? Biomass is measured as kg per meter cube. It's measured as kg per meter cube. Okay? So this is how your biomass का inverted pyramid भी हो सकता है. इधर तक समझा? लास्ट आ जाता है अपना एनर्जी, लेकिन देखिए फाइनल है अपना pyramid of energy. So there are only three pyramids: pyramids of number, pyramids of biomass, and pyramids of energy. Okay? Now, pyramids of energy is very easy to understand because it is the only pyramid which is always upright. Pyramid of energy can never become bulged, it can never become inverted. So, pyramid of energy is always upright. It can never be inverted because when the energy flows from a particular trophic level to the next trophic level, some energy is always lost as heat at each step. So, even in the earlier diagram, we saw in each step heat was given out, right? So each bar in the energy pyramid indicates the amount of energy present at each trophic level in a given time or annually per unit area. This particular follows the 10% law of Lindemann. So see, 10% law of energy by Lindemann, what Lindemann has said. According to Lindemann's law, during the transfer of energy from organic food from one trophic level to the next, only about 10% of the energy is going to be passed on. So about 10% of the energy from organic matter is stored as flesh. 90% is given as heat. Okay. So here you can see very clearly the 10% law. See, here it is 10,000 joules, 1000 joules, 100 joules, 10 joules. So at every step, only 10% of the energy is going to be restored, 90% is given as heat. Got it? So this particular pyramid of energy is always upright. It can never ever become inverted. But biomass can become inverted, numbers can become inverted, they can have bulged forms also, the examples with which we have already explained. So I understood these three pyramids very clearly. Anyone who has not understood these, कोई है difficulty? अब ये जो है ये इकोलॉजिकल एफिशिएंसीज है बेटा, इसके ऊपर आपको मैथमेटिकल कैलकुलेशन बेस्ड क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. So please understand them and remember these formulae. Okay. Ecological efficiencies, ratios between energy flow at different points along the food chain when expressed as percentages are called as ecological efficiencies. So what are ecological efficiencies? The ratio between energy flow at different points along the entire food chain. When they are going to be expressed as percentage, we call it as ecological efficiency. The various efficiencies can be calculated using different formulae. Photosynthetic efficiency, GPP upon incident solar radiation multiplied by 100. So they will give you these values. You only have to substitute them and get the answer. Okay. Net production efficiency, NPP upon GPP multiplied by 100. Okay. Assimilation efficiency, food energy assimilated upon food energy ingested multiplied by 100. everything is multiplied by 100 because it's in percentage. Okay. And ecological efficiency कैसे होते हैं देखो, energy in biomass production at a trophic level upon energy in biomass production at previous trophic level multiplied by 100. तो ये जो है ना, इसके ऊपर क्वेश्चंस आए हैं आपके एग्जाम में बेटा, बोर्ड्स में भी आए हैं और आपके कॉम्पिटिटिव में तो आते ही है. So just remember these formulas very correctly. What is photosynthetic efficiency? It's simple. Photosynthesis होगा मतलब क्या होगा, कितना रेडिएशन अवेलेबल है और कितना इसमें से उन्होंने ग्रॉस प्राइमरी प्रोडक्टिविटी के लिए यूज किया है. सिंपल एज दैट. ओके. व्हाट इज नेट प्रोडक्शन? नेट में क्या बताया मैंने, सब खर्चा करने के बाद कितना बचा है मेरे पास. ओके. तो कितना था और कितना बचा, दैट इज माय नेट प्रोडक्शन. राइट. एसिमिलेट करना मतलब क्या? कम ऑन, डाइजेशन, यू हैव डन द chapter of digestion. What do you mean by the word assimilation? Come on, I want an answer from you. What is assimilation? What is assimilation of digestion? Come on, come on, come on. Quickly tell me. Yes. Yes, yes. Others, I want you all to answer this. Come on. Where are others? Good morning. There is absorption and assimilation. Two words are there. So what is absorption? What is assimilation? Okay. Okay. Fine. It's not process of taking in food, beta. That is ingestion. Assimilate होना मतलब convert into smaller size. Not exactly. Collection. Okay. 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 Movement of food particles. No idea. Digestion of nutrients. No. Taking in nutrients. Not exactly. But you're close. You're close. Okay. What is assimilation, beta? The real meaning of assimilation is whatever nutrients have become available, whatever nutrients have become available, to use them in anabolic process is assimilation. Okay. So whatever is collected, whatever nutrients are collected after digestion process, they will reach individual cells, and those cells will now utilize these nutrients for their own anabolic process. That is called as assimilation. Okay. Absorption is from the blood, they will reach the cell. That is absorption. And after getting incorporated into the cell, these nutrients will act as raw materials for the making of something for their own work. That is called as assimilation. Got it? Got it now? Yeah. So they are saying, what is assimilation efficiency? Food energy assimilated means the one which is now going to be used for the anabolic product upon whatever was ingested. हमने खाया कितना, हमने पचाया कितना. ठीक है? Right? That is going to be assimilation efficiency. ठीक है? Ecological efficiency, energy in biomass production at a trophic level. Okay. So suppose T2, that is primary consumers. Okay. उधर से उसके पहले वाले प्रीवियस ट्रॉफिक लेवल में कितनी एनर्जी थी, बायोमास था, मल्टीप्लाइड बाय 100. सो इन दीज पर्टिकुलर, सिंपल है ये, like no need of mugging up of these things. Even if you just remember what are the definitions, you will be able to understand the formula for it. So photosynthetic efficiency, GPP upon solar energy. Net production efficiency, NPP by GPP. Correct? Assimilation efficiency, assimilation upon ingestion. And ecological efficiency, at this level, how much is the biomass with respect to the earlier one? As simple as that. समझ में आ गई बात? पक्का समझा जितना पढ़ाया है आज? क्लियर? यस। इकोलॉजिकल सक्सेशन वाला पार्ट आई वोंट डू इट टुडे. Ecological succession onwards, we'll do it in the next class, in the next week. But in the next week, we will complete this chapter. It's a very small chapter, hardly anything is remaining. Within, say, half an hour or so, we will complete this chapter in the next class. So we can start with the new chapter in the next class itself. So next class में हमारे ये chapter खत्म करके नए chapter start होने वाले हैं. Okay. So in the next class, I'll go ahead with biodiversity and conservation after completing this particular chapter itself. आगे का बहुत simple है, आगे का कुछ tension वाला है ही नहीं है chapter में. So within an half an hour or so, we can complete this chapter easily. And we'll again move ahead with a new chapter, that is biodiversity and conservation. Fine. Chalo. Thank you so much. See you all. Have a nice day and study nicely. Revise, start revisions. Okay? Yeah. Bye.